There we go. A few hiccups tonight, but much better than yesterday. Thank you so much for all of you who prayed. Just YouTube didn't want to connect, so I finally just had to refresh YouTube Studio, and then suddenly I had the connect button. I could click the connect button. It's a little bit strange. So, shalom to Julie, Annie, Brooke, Betty, Dvora, Troy, Gabrielle, Debs, Brenda, Beta Ovost, the Beaten Horse, and anybody else who's coming in later. So glad you guys made it. Let's just start with a very quick prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu, Moshil Magen, Blitecha, Ein Lanu, Eloah, Acher, Blitecha, Rakata, El Shaddai, El Gibor, Ve'el Nasi. Ken Yiratzon Ki Halayl Hazot, Lekach Nu Yihye Tov Ba'einecha. Ta'azer Na Otam Adonai, Vegam et Kol Talmudai, Lilmod Tov Ba'einecha. לכל הדברים האלה אנחנו נברכך בזכות Yeshua HaMashiach. Thank you, Father God. Just so grateful for everything working and everyone who's here. Thank you. May it be your will that you will bless our study time. And please help all of my students to have good understanding. May you send your Holy Spirit upon us. We give you all praise and glory. And we thank you for these things in the merit of Yeshua the Messiah. All right. Brenda's saying no video. Can somebody confirm if they have video or not? Okay, video's working for Deb. Sorry, Brenda. Something on your end. Yeah. Okay, so here we are. Let's get right into it. Tonight we're going to be finishing up Exodus chapter 18. Woohoo! So great. Making good progress through Exodus. And I am still considering the vote that we have got ongoing for if I should replace one of our Torah immersion classes with an actual grammar class. I checked out the vote. So far, it looks like many of you are wanting to have an actual grammar class. I'm just unsure if I'm going to replace this spot with it or if I'm just going to give you some videos I've made or whatever. I want to feel it out, right? Because I've seen a lot of success with the immersion stuff for people. So I'm a little hesitant, even though I was the one who said go vote. And you can still go vote. The poll is still ongoing. Okay. So you can still vote on t.me/messianic chat or t.me/Hebrew literacy. All right. Remember, we have Shavuot this week, so yeah. For members of Simchat Hashem, please make sure you register in time, all right? Okay, let's see. Boom. Let's get right into it. All right. Oh, that's wrong. Down here is where we left off. I remember now. Okay, there's the camp. There's Yithro, still consulting with Moshe Rabbeinu. All right, let's get to the text. So please let me know if it's too small on your screen, on your device, okay? And I can zoom in. All right. Verse 21. This is Exodus chapter 18, verse 21. It says, Ve'ata techeze. This is still Yithro. He's giving advice, right? Ve'ata. Now you, that's how I would interpret it, right? The Vav is very flexible, right? It can mean all kinds of things. And, but, or, when, then, if, now, so. You got to be flexible when you're bringing this into English, okay? Ve'ata. Now you, techeze. So this verb, chaza, it almost sounds like it sounds like something like abracadabra chaza. Like, I don't know. But it means to gaze, right? Like to look at, right? To gaze, to look at. But the tav at the beginning reminds us of ata, right? So that tav jammed in the front of a verb means you will look at, you will gaze upon, okay? So why do we have this one here? So literally what it says is, and you will look, okay? So Yithro's getting a bit softer now. Instead of giving straight imperatives, commands, he's making it, you will do this, which feels softer in Hebrew. So I'm going to say this, you yourself, right? He's been giving the advice about the others, judging and stuff. No problem, Bruce. We just started. All good, all good. Okay. Ve'ata techazeh. Now you yourself will, it's literally saying gaze at, but the idea is more like inspecting, right? Like he's inspecting. You'll see from context. Mikol ha'am. From kol, remember, min, it reminds you of min. The word is min, right? Min is mean because he always takes candy from babies, okay? So that's min. Min means mean. No, just kidding. Min is from, okay? And when you sandwich it on a word like this, the N part goes inside of the next letter. That's why the dagesh is there. That's telling you, hey, there's a noon inside of me. He's hiding. Come get him. Okay? So mikol, from all. In ancient Hebrew, before the Bible, this would have been found as min kol, but we don't have examples of this. But theoretically, it would have been min kol, and then it became mikol, right? It caused that kaf to double. The process is called assimilation. In case any of you are grammar nuts and you want to look that up. So mikol, from all ha'am, of the people, and this was one of your Hebrew words of the day, so you should know that one. Anshe chayil. So this word is anashim. So you've learned ish. Ish means man. Anashim is plural of men. And you remember what happens when you have a plural, like a many, a word that's saying many of something, right? And it ends in a mem, an M sound, and the M is gone. That's how you say of. Hey, shalom, Dr. Dwayne. Glad you made it. Anshe chayil. Men of chayil. Valor, right? And ish chayil is a man who doesn't desert his family, right? An ish chayil is a man who doesn't accept bribes. An ish chayil can also mean a soldier, right? In context, that can mean soldier, right? So soldier is kind of like the way to, you could kind of circle around that and help you to remember the other things. So men of valor. So it doesn't necessarily mean fighting men in this context. It means they're kosher men. Yirei Elohim. So this is typical biblical Hebrew parallelism. It'll give you a concept, and then the Torah will tell us in another way, it'll further clarify that same concept, right? So, for example, Anshe chayil, men of valor. Now we're going to get the parallel. Yirei Elohim. Okay, so this is, again, it's fearers of, from the verb yara, yod resh aleph. Yara is to fear. And Yaraim or Yorim means fearers, and then you drop the mem, fearers of Elohim, God-fearers. So what do we mean by Anshe chayil? Are we saying like soldiers only? The Torah clarifies no. The kind of Anshe chayil, the subgroup within that class is Yirei Elohim, God-fearers. Anshe emet, men of truth. Emet is truth. You know, we have time. I'll share. There's an Ashkenaz Jewish legend, right? A German Jewish legend, and you've probably heard of. Do you remember the figure Golem in Lord of the Rings? You know, my precious. You remember this guy, right? So Golem is actually a Jewish word from our mythology, right? So there's this rabbi who supposedly, the way the legend goes, he created a being from clay and mud, and then he wrote on its forehead this word, emet, aleph, mem, tav, truth, right? Which also has a meaning of like fidelity in some context, right? Like, you know, to have fidelity to Hashem, right? To be loyal to him. So emet. And the thing came to life and it started serving him, kind of like a robot, right? And this went on for a long time until finally the rabbi forgot to tell it to rest on Shabbat one time. And because it didn't rest on Shabbat, it went crazy, right? And it went around hurting people and breaking things and all this stuff until finally the rabbi caught up with it and he erased the aleph. And so all that was left was met, which means dead. And that's how he solved the problem. So anyway, emet, maybe that'll help you to remember that word. Emet, truth. The story of the golem. Yes, please listen to what Pastor Bruce is saying there. I agree. Please remember to like. Sona'e vatzah. Sana means to hate. Like David HaMelech says in the Tehillim, Sanati kol poleav, and I have hated all doers of iniquity. Right? So Sonaim are haters. Don't be hating the haters. So drop the mem. Now it's just Sona'e, haters of. And this word, it's not really vatsa. It's actually betsa with an e. Betsa. Betsa. Betsa is often translated ill-gotten gain, right? So something you got through theft, right? Or maybe not you, but someone. Maybe someone cheated somebody else, right? Or maybe it was like anyway, it's illegal gain basically, right? Against the Torah gain. The reason it's batsa here, well, vatsa instead of vetsa, is because this word is in pause. It means that when the Masoretes added the vowel pointings to the holy text, the consonantal text is what's absolutely sacrosanct. The vowels, sometimes we have to change the vowels to make it make sense. Sometimes they made mistakes with their dots and points and stuff. Most of the time not, but sometimes they did. So in this case, what happened was because this word is like in the middle of the sentence, it's at the end of a clause, they would often have a wishbone under there, right? We call it etnachta, some call it atnach, others call it atnachta. It looks like a wishbone, right? The comic book doesn't show them, but if you look in a normal Hebrew Bible, they're there. Okay, and so that tells you hit this word hard and then take a long pause, right? And it helped people with memorization, these kind of patterns, right? So they'd be going wrong, like reading like so you see how the became an ah, just so that you don't have to remember this, but just in case you're wondering, why are the spellings changing in these words? It's not the way that Moshe probably intended it originally, but it is the way that people memorized. And because it was memorized that way, that's why it's spelled that way. Hey, Shalom, Davy, welcome. Great. Okay, continuing. Visamta, so Yithro is still teaching Moshe. So this verb, it's hard to recognize the root. The root is seem. So it's a seen, which looks just like sheen, but the dot's over here. And then there's a yod, which is gone. And then there's a mem. That's the three root letters, right? And this is what you're going to do when you come across a word that you don't know, or you're just trying to figure out how to kind of categorize things. We categorize them by roots. Almost every word in biblical Hebrew, almost 96% some out of the words come from three root letters, right? So this is very useful when you can learn what the root means. Then later when you see like a noun or an adjective or some other kind of verb, from that, it's highly predictable what the meaning is. So this will help you with your memorization. So now we're still in our 13 months, I guess 12 months to go, a little bit less, of getting the 80% vocabulary that we need for Tanakh, right? To really be able to enjoy reading it and have a kind of fluid experience, right? So this will help you to expand that in the future as you start recognizing these patterns. So knowing the root is nice. So seem is what we call a hollow verb. Verbs that have a vav or a yod as the second root letter are called hollow because oftentimes it goes away. It's like they're hollow and they just fall in on it themselves. Okay. Good. Yes, thank you. Deb's pointing out that we have a video on this channel on how to learn the alphabet, how to read and write it. There's practice. The vowels are taught. All that stuff is here. You can get that all in the language snippets playlist. Okay. All right. Samta, the ta reminds us of ata. See, there it is. Ta, right? Ta. So when you see that clipped at the end of the verb, that means you, right? Specifically talking to a man, you, or sometimes uncategorized. So samta means you placed or you set. Sometimes it can mean you gave, right? The Vav bloop, changes the time. Think of your flux capacitor from Back to the Future. And so Visanta means, and you will place. So, or then you will place, then you will assign. Al, upon. We've had this, upon, we know this word. Hem. Hem means them, right? If you've learned your pronouns. So you will assign them, or you will literally place upon them, sare alafim. So what is this word? The word is sar. And of course, we know one of the titles of Yeshua is Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace, right? Prince of Shalom. So Sar, at its very rudimentary level, means prince, right? And we have a verb that comes from this that means to rule over someone or to try to rule over someone, right? Not the usual word for rule, but we have it, right? You'll see this if you look at in Torah portion Korach, you'll find it's used when they're basically accusing Moshe of doing this, right? You and Aaron, you're trying to sar over us. You're sarring us, right? Right? Okay. So, but look, this one's a plural. Sarim. Sarim means princes. We remove the mem, and now it's of. Sare, princes of, I'm just being hyper literal right now, okay, by the way. Princes of alafim, that means thousands. Okay, so princes maybe don't make so much sense. Maybe we'll say like chiefs, managers, overseers, something like that. But it's from the concept of prince, right? Sarei meot, princes of hundreds. Sarei, princes of, because it's not sarim, the M is gone, so it has to be of, princes of chamishim, 50s. And you'll find also in military, in the Torah military lingo, this is like a unit, right? Vesare, and princes of asarot, tens. Okay. There's the bureaucracy getting put in place for the court system. All right, here's our next comic slide. By the way, feel free to ask questions if you don't understand something or you've just been wondering about something about Hebrew grammar. That is totally appropriate. Okay. So similar picture, they're just still kind of talking. Moshe's like, am I going to trust this guy? All right, I'm going to make it much closer here. Hold on, give me a sec. Hopefully you can see that. Nah. Just rearrange some things. There. That should be big. Verse 22. V'shafetu et ha'am bechol ait. Okay, let's stop there. Shafat, we had this word yesterday. There's a book in the Bible called Shofatim, which is judges. This is the verb, that's the root that word comes from. A shofet is a judge or a ruler, right? So you might be wondering, like, why is, like, Shimshon, why is he called a judge? What's up with that? So it doesn't just mean judge, right? It's got kind of a stronger feeling in Hebrew than it does in English, right? Judge is the closest approximation, right? But there are many places in the Bible, especially in the Nach, in the Nevi'im, in the prophets, where it's more appropriate to translate shofet as ruler, right? Ruler. So in many places, it's going to mean ruler. Hey, Shalom Sosa, glad you made it. Great, great. So shafetu, the u at the end means they. So they judged. This is the verb, though, right? This is the verb. Ve changes the time. There's our flux capacitor. And they will judge, or so they will judge, et, we don't translate, ha'am, the people, bechol ait. So literally this is saying in chol all ait, time. So you've had these words, you've had beit and you've had chol for your Hebrew words of the day, right? So you should have those memorized. Ait, this one's maybe not memorized yet. Ait can mean time or season, right? Okay. For every season under the sun, etc., etc., in Kohelet, it's using this word. Right. Okay. V'haya, haya means he was or he became. Okay. Or it. Always, whenever we say he with a verb or she, that can also be it, right? If it's not a human. So haya, it became or it was. The vav changes the time. V'haya, and it will be. Okay. What will be? Here's the subject. Kol, every or each. Hadavar, each of the thing or any matter. What kind of matter? Hagadol. So literally this says every of the matter or issue, the great one. So that's how adjectives usually work. You'll have the noun and then the adjective, right? So hadavar, the thing, the word, the issue, the great one. Okay? So v'haya kol hadavar hagadol. So every thing that's a big deal, every big issue, v'haya will be, it will be that every big issue, yavi'u. So ba we know, ba is to come or to arrive, but then look, we have a yod stuck in there. That yod is jammed in before the third root letter. And if you've been watching the immersion videos, hopefully you'll recognize this, or you're starting to feel comfortable with it. When we put a yod in before the third root letter, that is telling us it's to cause to do whatever that is. It's a different word. This is technically a different verb, a different word, right? But as you're learning the patterns, you don't need to memorize a new vocabulary word because the patterns will help you to guess what it means, right? So in this case, ba is bring, pardon me, ba is come, and then the yod makes it cause to come, right? Which means to bring, right? To bring. It sounds wordy English, to cause to come, to cause to arrive. So the yod at the beginning tells you he, right? When we have a yod stuck at the beginning of a verb, that's not part of the root. That means he. And then the u at the end is a plural. So what's the plural of he? What's many of he? They. Okay. So yaviu, they will bring. So at all, okay. Then it should be that every big deal, every issue which is great, yaviu, they will cause to come, they will bring elecha, unto cha, unto you. Vechol hadavar hakaton, and every the thing, the small one, katon is small. So maybe you could think of like little threads of cotton in the shirt. It's hard to tell. Is it cotton? You're trying to find out if the shirt is kosher. Is it shatnez? Is that cotton or is it, what is it? It's so small I can't see the cotton because it's small. Cotton is small. I don't know. Or you can think of something more violent, like you're swallowing a cotton ball. Oh, come on, swallow it. It's small. That's easy to swallow. A cotton ball. It's katon. I don't know. Things like this, if you do little tricks like this and you give yourself like a few minutes to internalize it, think about how goofy the situation is, you can remember vocabulary much faster. Deb said, I got a bit lost. Vav usually changes it to past tense, but now it's turning the verbs to future tense. Okay, so both. If you have a future tense verb, it's not really tense. I kind of don't like to use that language. It's not really tense. It's an aspect. We'll say tense for now. Okay. We'll just say it. We'll say if it's future, really future or present is how the one kind of verb, the imperfect verbs work. And we put a vav in front of it. Oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes it changes it to be what we would call past, a completed action. And the opposite is true. If you have something that's a completed action and you put the vav in front, often that changes it to be what we would call future or present, usually future though. Okay? Goes both ways. It goes both ways. Okay. And really, it's not changing anything. If there's any like Hebrew grammarians watching, they're going to be like rolling their eyes. That's not what happens. Don't save the hates. Okay. I'm just trying to make it so people immersing that we can see the little footprints. You understand it, even if you don't really know the process that's happening under the scene. You don't have to know that this was the Northwest Semitic way of saying things before, and it's just resurfacing and all that stuff. Okay. All right. Yishpatu haim. Yishpatu. Shafat. Here it is again. Shafat. To judge. The yod says he, and the u makes it plural. Yishpatu. They will judge. Haim. I'm going to say themselves. Literally, what this is saying is they will judge. They. You see? Haim means they. So they will judge themselves. This is what we call when you have a pronoun like I, you, he, we, she, etc., and it shows up twice in a row. That pronoun is called an emphatic pronoun because it's emphasizing somehow, right? So you could translate this, they shall certainly judge it. That's one way. It could mean that. But I think really the meaning here is themselves. They will judge it themselves because he already said they'll bring it to you. And so in context, it makes sense to not say certainly judge, but they will judge, right? That's how we're emphasizing it. Okay. Good question, Debs. By the way, don't be shy, guys, if you have questions. That's totally fine. If you're asking it, chances are there's at least 20 others, maybe not live, but who are going to watch the video later that have the question too. And by the way, if you're watching the videos later and you want to see the chat, that's available on YouTube. I have it set so that it saves the chat, so you can actually see the chat while we're watching the video. So it's not exactly like you're live with us, but it feels a little bit more like you can see what people were saying, what they were thinking. And sometimes misery loves company. So it's nice to know that you're not the only one not getting it. Okay. And again, even if you're only getting 10% of this or something, that's fine. Stick with it. We're immersing, and we're in the word. I mean, it's time well spent in the word in the original language. All right. And if you do it enough and you're paying at least one eye's open while you're sleeping, you're going to get some stuff. Bruce says, I've had too many. Just soaking. Fair enough. V'hakel me'alecha v'naseu itach. Okay. V'hakel me'alecha. Okay. So what was our context? They bring it to you, and every small thing, let them judge themselves. Okay. And v'hakel me'alecha, and it shall be from you. V'naseu. Okay. So okay. So that which is it says from upon you, but it's really saying which is assigned to you is what it's saying. Nasa is to carry up. Nasu is they will carry up. Venasu, let them carry up, let them bring up itach to you. Okay. So hakal, I try to make that a verb. It's really the light things, like the light matters, right? The hakel, the light matters. Like not meaning light, but meaning like not heavy. Okay. Let's see. Verse 23. Im et hadavar hazeh, if it will be hadavar hazeh, the thing, this one. So he's really saying like this way, right? But literally it says, if the thing, this one, ta'aseh, you shall do. So you see, it's really, if you do it this way, v'tzivacha Elohim, and Elohim, God, will command you, vayachalta. So the verb here is yachal, which means to be able to, right? Like to have victory, this kind of stuff, to be able to. Then the ta at the end reminds us of ata. Then you will be able to. Yachalta means you were able to. And here the Vav Deb, see it's changing the time. Then you will be able to. Instead it means now. Amod, stand. You'll be able to stand. Vegam, and also, kol, all, ha'am, the people. All the people will also be able to stand. Hold on, I gotta get a drink of water real quick. Just a sec. Okay. Okay, so Bruce is asking, where does the O come from in Elohim on the Lamed? Okay, yeah, good question. So let me find where we were. Yeah, see the little dot next to the Lamed? That's called a defective cholim. When we write Elohim, like on paper, we actually write a full Vav there, the full Vav with the dot on top. So this is what's considered a defective spelling for Elohim, but you see it a lot in the Torah this way. Okay, Elohim. Okay, the O is there. So we have the Aleph, which would have been in old days. E, O, O, H, I, M. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Good question. Okay. Vegam, and also Kol Ha'am Hazeh. All of the people, this one, all this people. Al upon Mekomo. Makom is place of him. So on his place, Yavo, he will come, Veshalom, peacefully. So, should I say this or not? I'm trying to think. Okay, if you had too much grammar already, just cover your ears. For the grammar nuts, this is one way, the predominant way that we form an adverb in Hebrew is you can take a concept like a noun or a participle or something, and you put a bait in front of it, and that, so literally it's in peace, right? But it's peacefully. So it's describing how he's yavo, how he's arriving, how he's coming. Shalom, the shalom, peacefully. Okay. Moshe is considering. Okay. Let's see our next picture. Make myself smaller. All right, there's Moshe with the people, and we are making good time. This is the last frame for tonight. Next is, see, here's the next parak, next chapter 19, right there. Okay, so we just have 3 more verses. Finish the chapter. Lovely. Verse 24. And by the way, to all of you watching this later, a lot of you have sent me comments and encouragement and stuff, and it's helping you and all that stuff. I really appreciate that. Please keep that coming. Also constructive feedback is also appreciated. Um, so I understand a lot of you have work or whatever, so you can't make it when we're live. So that's totally fine. Verse 24, Vayishma Moshe leqol choteno. Okay. Shema, Shema, right? So literally, Shema means to hear. But I explained yesterday there's an idiom, a Hebrew idiom. When you have Shema plus either beqol or leqol, and don't confuse this kol with the word meaning everything or each. This one's spelled differently, and it would have sounded slightly differently with ancient pronunciation. So this one means voice, right? So previously we had vekol in the voice. Now we have leqol to the voice, okay? So when you have Shema leqol or Shema beqol, that's an idiom that means obey. Obey, okay? Unless it's God who's doing it. If it's God who does it, then it just means I don't really know how to express this better than the older English hearken to, right? Like to decide to do what the person's asking, the petitioner's asking, okay? But usually it means obey. So Yishma, the Yod tells us he is hearing ongoing now, or he will hear, or will be hearing. The Vav changes the time. Okay. Vayishma Moshe lekol choteno. Then Moshe Yishma lekol obeyed choteno. The choten, the father-in-law of him. O means him. Okay. It's the vav, really. That's meaning him. So it doesn't have to be o. It could be a v sound also, but here it's o. Vayas kol asher amar. So this verb, hopefully some of you are recognizing it now. It's asa, ayin, sin, hey, and verbs that end in hey, the hey goes away, right? So the hey's gone. So ya'as, the yod means he is doing or he will do, but the vav changes the time. And he did kol, everything, asher, which, amar, he said. Now, you might be noticing something at this point about Torah Hebrew. Fairly often, the antecedent to a pronoun is ambiguous. What I mean is, if you say he or she, he, such and such, right? Well, there might be two he's we're just talking about. Which one? Which one? So context is usually going to save you there, right? It just said Amar, he said, but we had two he's. We had Chotano and we had Moshe, right? His father-in-law and him, right? And father-in-law was the more recent one, right? So that's going to, in this case, that's going to be our context, which he said, meaning his father-in-law said, right? In English, it's not really proper to say he did everything which he said, and those he's are two different people, right? You're really supposed to be more specific, right? But in biblical Hebrew, no problem. Relax. Just enjoy. Verse 25. Vayivchar Moshe anshe chayil mikol Yisrael vayiten otam rashim al ha'am. Okay. So bachar, the verb is bachar, even though it's a v here. Bachar. Bachar means to choose. So any of you familiar with the Siddur, you might remember we have the prayer says Ki bachar banu mikol ha'amim, for he chose us. Bachar banu, he chose us from all peoples. Okay. Usually this is connected with a bait for the one being chosen, but it's not here. Okay, it's not here. So bachar is choose. The yod means he. So yivchar, when you have the yod in the front, it's he will choose or he is choosing. The vav changes the time. Vayivchar, so he chose, and he chose. Who's the one choosing? Moshe. So Moshe chose Anshe Chayil. So this is Anashim of Chayil, men of valor. Mikol, so that's min, from. Mikol, from all of Yisrael. Vayitain, this is the verb natan, right? So it's kind of hard to see, kind of hard to recognize. So natan, it's funny, every time I look off the screen to look at the camera, my yad wanders, points at the wrong thing. So the verb is natan. And if you remember, Verbs that start with an N sound, the noun, oftentimes that N will disappear or it will assimilate. It'll put a dot in the next letter. Okay? So natan is the verb, but look, it's gone. In ancient Hebrew, before the Bible, this would have been yin-tain, right? Yin-tain. So yitain. There's two tavs there to make up for the fact that the noun, he became one of them. He assimilated himself. Okay? The yod says he. Yitain is he is giving, he will give them. It can also mean to set or to place. Here, I think it's probably like assigned, right? So the Vav changed the time. Vayiten, so he assigned otam, them. Otam means them. Rashim, as heads, al over ha'am, the people. Okay. And Rosh, I believe we've had this as one of our Hebrew words of the day. We already have more than 50, I think. So you should be getting a strong vocabulary going, especially since I'm teaching you the most common words, right? The ones that you're going to see all over the place, because that's going to help you with your confidence and enjoyment in wrestling with the text, right? Remember, that's the goal. Keep on it. Don't let it slide. Several of you have written me that you're doing the word of the day. Some of you are even writing down the verse, the memory verse. Some are transliterating. That's great. However much time you can give it. If you can only give it the 60 seconds, fine, but try to do it. Try to review the words at the end of the week that you learned for that week. Because this is the thing. A year from now, guys, we're going to be able to be reading Hebrew Bibles, Hebrew readers' Bibles, right? And you're going to be able to just close your eyes and point, and any word you hit, it's going to be a 79.6% chance that you know that word. Actually, closer to 80 because I'm doing a bit more than just, you understand? That if you just do it this first year, it's going to be a push, and you're going to really start reaping the rewards. If you just, little, like the tortoise, a little bit at a time, little bit, just keep going, keep going. All right. And it's really nice because you'll be watching sermons and stuff. You can watch, rabbis teaching stuff online or whatever. And they put up the Hebrew, or you're going to be hearing it. You're going to get stuff. Oh, that's familiar. I know that. And it'll reinforce what you've learned. Plus, the Holy Spirit will help you as well. I hope many of you are seeing already that the Holy Spirit does help with biblical Hebrew. Might not help you with your Spanish. Might not help you with, whatever language, but definitely with Hebrew, there is help from the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay. No, wait. Okay, right. Last. Okay, we need to finish verse 25. We went halfway through it. Aham, alaham, over the people. Sarei alafim. Let me just mute my computer there. Princes of thousands, right? So leaders of thousands. Sarei me'ot. Leaders of hundreds, or princes, I'll just keep it literal, of hundreds. By the way, this word sar, have you ever heard the United States has appointed a border czar, right, or something like that, right? They use this title for the guy that got all this power over a certain thing, right? Or the Russian king was called the Tsar. Tsar. It's from this Hebrew word. It's from Tsar. It came into Old Slavonic from Hebrew, actually. So you actually should. That's another way that you can remember what the word means. When you hear Tsar, think Tsar or Czar, like we say in English. CZAR, usually they say. Okay. Sarei Chamishim, princes of Chamishim. And if you didn't catch the immersion lesson where I taught you how to do numbers, when you learn just your numbers up through 9, you've already learned a lot more than you think you've learned. So Chamesh means 5. And if you put im at the end, that's a plural. That means 50. Okay, so watch. Shalosh. We had this as one of our words of the day, right? A couple days ago. Shalosh is 3. Now you know how to say 30. Shaloshim. Just put the im on there, it's 30. Arba is 4. Arba is 4. Arba'im, 40. Shesh is 6. Sheshim, 60. You see? Sheva, Shiva'im, etc., etc., etc. So put the im, and that's just kind of how, like adding a 0 in English, right? 5 and then add the 0. Vesarei al-sarot, and princes of tens. Verse 26. Veshafetu et ha'am bechol la'et et hadavar hakashe. Okay, I'll stop there before I read it all. Shafat is to judge. The u at the end tells it's plural, they. So shafatu is they judged. The vav is going to change the time. Deb, see, it's going to change the time and make it like future. We would say imperfect. Veshafatu, so they judged et ha'am, the people, bechol eit, at all times. Et hadavar hakashe, Okay. The thing, the matter, the affair, hakashe, the heavy one, right? It's like harsh. Really means like harsh. Like we see this in chapter 1, this word in Exodus when we hear about the wicked king, right? Who said, "Hey, nit chachame, let's be sneaky about them. Deal shrewdly with them and enslave them, etc., etc., etc." It goes on to say that when they enslaved us, they put upon us, our ancestors, avodah kasha. See, it's the same word. Avodah is like work, labor, kasha. I usually translate avodah kasha as back-breaking labor, right? And it goes on to, with Hebrew parallelism to say what kinds of labor, every kind of thing out in the sun and all that kind of stuff, right? So, like the harsh matters, right? It might be difficult, but I think the Torah chose this word for a reason. Like, it doesn't mean that they couldn't decide the matter always, right? It means that maybe there's a death penalty, or maybe there's, you understand, or maybe there's something that someone's going to lose a lot of money. They decide, okay, you know what? Let's kick this one up to the Supreme Court. This one's going to Moshe. It's the harsh matters, right? I know we'll translate oftentimes the weightier matters or whatever. I just want you to understand the nuance of the word, the feeling of the word. There's many ways we could say difficult matters or heavy matters, etc. But the Torah used this word to say it. So I think that this means even matters where the lower judges felt secure that they made the right choice. They wanted to be safe and make sure that there was justice that was served. Yevi'un. So here we have ba again, to come. The yod in there means to cause to come, like so, or to cause to arrive. The yod means he. The yod at the beginning is he. And the u is plural, they. Yevi'u, they brought. And then that noon is our paragogic noon. This is like an emphasizer. Like, they brought, like they really brought. El, unto Moshe. V'chol hadavar hakaton yishbetu hem. But, chol, every, or each, hadavar hakaton, small matter, yishputu. So shafat is to bring. The u at the end tells us it's they. Yishputu, they brought haim themselves. Pardon me, they judged themselves. My brain. They judged. So the u is already saying they, and then we have haim again. They judged they. They judged themselves. And there we are. Look, we're done. Next week we get to start on Perik Yod Tet. 10 plus 9, 19. All right, we finished a few minutes early. Are there any questions you guys have about what we read? Any lingering Hebrew issues you want solved? I'm going to cut it at 45 minutes, so ask now or hold your peace until after I cut it. All right, kind of silent over there. Thanks for all the likes. Appreciate it, guys. Again, I want to encourage you. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. This is a treasure that is worth having. I just want to tell you that in my own life, there have been times of suffering. Let's see, what about verse 27? Oh, you're right. Before I give my little talk. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Betty and Julie. You saved us. Forget the times of suffering. Here we go. Okay. At least it's a short one. Verse 27. Oh, good. Beaten horse like the golem story. Great. Hopefully that'll help people remember. Vaishalach Moshe. Remember, you put emet on the forehead. Emet. Shalach is to send, but this one has a special dot inside the second root letter. Sheen is the first letter, Lamed second, and Chet is the third. So you put the little dot in there, that makes it stronger. It's usually a stronger meaning. Sometimes causative is the result of being stronger. So shalach is to send, but with the dot in there, that means like to send out or to send off. It can also mean to banish, and it can also mean to divorce. Like to send out a woman, right? She's out of the tent and not coming back, right? Okay. So the yod means he. So yes, shalach means he is sending out or he will send out, like sending kind of far away, you understand? But the vav changes the time. Vai shalach Moshe. Then Moshe sent out et choteno, his choten, the choten of O, the choten of him, his father-in-law. Vayelech, yelech means he will go, he will walk. The vav changes the time. It's from the word halach. Vayelech, and he went lo for himself. I think this is actually expressing by himself, right? Meaning without his daughters, right? I mean, his daughter, without his daughter. The daughter stayed with Moshe. Actually, we learned that his son, Chobab, also stayed with Moshe. Later on in Bamidbar, Chobab is mentioned. El, unto Artso. This is the word Eretz. I don't know if you know any Israeli folk music. Eretz, Eretz, Eretz. Eretz Yisrael. La, da, 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 da. Anyway, so Eretz is land. Artso is land of O, land of him, his land. Okay? Vaishlach Moshe et chotano, vayelech lo el artso. So Moshe sent out his choten, vayelech, and he went lo, literally for him, so for himself, by himself, el unto artso, his land. Now we're here. And now it's a good 45 minutes. So I just was saying, like, the gift of having Hebrew. In my own life, there have been times when, bad stuff happened and I was feeling bad and, but then I felt encouraged because I was like, hey, you know what? I can read the Bible in Hebrew. It's like nobody can take that away. That it's such a beautiful thing, and you're not going to get tired of it. Just having that, it'll just keep growing and growing. It's a gift that no one's going to be able to take away. So be encouraged. Yeah. Deb says, no questions from me. Thanks for repeating some concepts so it makes it easier to remember. Sure. And for those of you who are more advanced, sorry that I'm repeating stuff a lot. I just want to make sure that even if it's at the expense of the advanced students, that everybody can kind of sluck in some of the patterns a little bit easier. Shalom, Impacted Life. Impacted Life says, what's the relationship between Chamishim and Mashiach? Okay, very interesting. Well, one that I would say is that, and then I have to finish because we're already at 46 minutes, is that Mashiach ascended into the heavens on the 40th day of the counting of the Omer, and he told his disciples to remain until the 50th day, which is Shavuot, to remain in Jerusalem. And so we're about to celebrate this week Shavuot, and we have the added blessing of knowing who the Messiah is. Unfortunately, unlike our brothers and sisters in Israel who are still waiting thousands of years, no Messiah coming, don't know what to do with Daniel that says Messiah has to come before the temple's destroyed, but here he is. We have him. Everything worked out fine. So anyway, that's a great question, and hope to see you guys in the comments later or over in t.me/messianic chat. Shalom, shalom, and be well.